Welcome back, participant. So, should I start, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready.
Okay, ma'am. So, we are at the third session of today's. So, over to ma'am. Please start your third session on evaluation of market survey.
Okay, so the session now is about evaluating the PPRs, that is that pre-feasibility reports or preliminary project report. Has anyone prepared anything on preliminary project report or pre-feasibility report that we talked about earlier?
Nazma, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Nazma. Can you put up your
No,
view?
ma'am. I didn't prepare yet.
Okay, so we'll discuss the concepts. Let us not have things in written, but we can always do interactive thing. For 2 days, I only have interactive sessions with you, but we'll be
Ashwarya
interacting on
also
a topic.
has raised her hand, ma'am. Ashwarya has prepared, I think.
Mhm.
No, ma'am.
Yes,
Actually, there is some miscommunication. I thought only the market survey will be done today.
Okay, so there are two sessions for feedback and discussion on market survey. There's two sessions on evaluation of this preliminary project report or pre-feasibility report by the trainees. So if you have not prepared it, we'll still discuss the different components which are there in a pre-feasibility report. You can discuss it on your particular ideas. But before
Ma'am,
that,
I can submit that tomorrow.
okay. So tomorrow we have linking business opportunity with trainees. We can do it that time. So I do not have any topics on these 2 days. I only have to discuss about your preliminary project report or pre-feasibility report, the business opportunities that you have chosen for yourself, and technical for finalizing the project. So probably what I see is you will have to take a project like Aishwarya has already taken, Pranita has already taken for mushroom, Aishwarya has taken for fashion. Then who else? Jyoti was there who was building the website for Lucknow?
Prati.
Aarti,
Prati. Yeah.
Prarthi has already taken one. So all of you need to choose a project that on which you will be applying this market survey, the pre-feasibility report, and the business plan. My last session with you is about preparation of detailed business plan. That is on third. These two sessions are interaction on earlier things that have been discussed already. So first, I'll answer this question that was put up on IT sector, right? Okay, coming to someone who wants to start something in IT sector. So IT sector actually is a knowledge sector or a skill-based sector, right? Unless you are in IT hardware business. If you're not into hardware and internet and system kind of thing, then you are into software, right? So you need to distinguish this first of all. Then who put up that question? Jyoti? Nazma? Who put that question up about IT sector? Someone wants to start.
Apurva, ma'am. Apurva.
Okay,
She has,
Apurva. Uh,
I think she is not there. Actually, network issue was there on that side. So, right
okay.
now she is not there.
So if Apurva is not there, then we'll not discuss this topic because this was her specific query.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
so she'll not get the answer. So no point discussing that. Okay. Right. So what else can you discuss with me is, do you people remember the session on pre-feasibility report? What are the different components of the pre-feasibility report? What all feasibilities do you check before taking a decision whether to step into a business or not? What feasibilities do you check? You can give your answers in the chat box also. Okay. So Sangeeta has answered it in a very encrypted manner. She has covered everything. Anyone who would like to elaborate on what TILOS stands for? Technical, right? Technical feasibility, economical feasibility, legal, right? Operational feasibility. in the scheduling, right? Okay. So it's there if you remember this. So these are the aspects about your business that we'll discuss. Market part we have already done. Most of these things again, while you are doing your market survey, these are also the aspects that you'll study about your business. So let's take them up one by one. The technology involved. What do you think about the technology that is required to run your business, Ashwarya? Would you like to say something about what do you think is a technical requirement for your business?
Uh, Ma'am, firstly, a website is needed
Okay.
and app would be better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to mm, make some I mean sign some deal with brand I mean some brand website that I will give link of I will I mean give in my website I will uh,
Mm.
sell clothes from their brand,
Okay.
and I will put a link where by clicking that the customer will go to their brand website and buy the thing.
But why, Shwarya, do you think that customer will not go, can't go to their brand already because they are already established brands? Why do they need you to bring customers to them?
Because there is no segment for different body shape, and they will get the suggestion in my website. Otherwise they have to first search on Amazon, Flipkart, and then several brand website. Then by wasting a lot of time, then only they may find one or two clothes for their body shape. Of
Okay,
course, the people
so
have rectangular body have no problem, but the
hmm.
people with other body shape will always have problem.
So what do you think will be the deal that you will offer to these websites? Um as to why they should be giving you a commission, because if you are giving their link, the person will go and pay on their website, it will redirect it to their website and they'll go and pay it to them. Why do you think they'll be paying to you for it? What is the deal that you are bringing to them? See, okay.
Because
Right. When you do a B2B deal, that is business to business deal, it has to be a win-win deal for both the people involved. For you, of course, it is key. You are not keeping an inventory, you are using their inventory. So you do not have a cost involved in building that inventory, right? And for them, the deal is you're bringing the market to them, you're bringing new customers to them.
yes,
Because
ma'am.
now similarly whenever you go, um, this has to be very clear. Whenever you go to make a deal with anyone in a business scenario for a customer, you have to give them a deal as to what is the return on the investment that they are making, because they are paying for it. The customer can be a business, the customer can be an individual, the customer can be an institution, right? Customer can be anyone. So it can be an institution or an organization, or it can be an individual. That person is giving money. So what is the returns he is getting on money? That value proposition should be clear to you, because any deal happens when there is a win-win for both the people. So what are they winning has to be clear. Similarly, when you go to make a partnership deal, or when you go and make a tie-up with a supplier, with a distributor, with a business partner or somebody, you need to give them a reason why they should be collaborating with you. What is it in for them, right? From their perspective, what is it that they have, and why it is a win-win for both the people, for you as well as for them, to collaborate with you. So one is that. So technical one is key. You're saying now you will have to have a deal with some of these brands, and they have to
Uh,
agree to give a cut to you, right?
yes, ma'am.
For the people who come through your website, who are being redirected from your website, you'll need a website and an app. Now, can you build the website or app yourself? Do you have an in-house skill to do it, or will you be engaging another agency in it?
Actually, I can make the app, but I don't have license to publish it on Play Store. And in case of website, I also made it, but then I have to buy server and all, which I haven't bought yet. And in WordPress, of course, I can make a website.
Okay. So, talking about technology, there are two things that Aishwarya needs. Now, the decision she has to take is, now the decision before her is she needs a website, she needs an app, and she needs some back-end collaborations so that she can sell their products on her website. Now, to build, now the decision is whether the technology will be in-house or it will be outsourced. Here, it's a very basic technology, right? It's not a core production. If she was doing production work, then probably she would require higher end technology. She would require machines. She would require other stuff where plant machinery, etc., would be involved. Here, since she is not manufacturing anything herself, she just is an interface for selling. She needs that interface. So now the decision, technical decision that needs to be taken is whether the technology is in-house or technology is outsourced, right?
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
pros and cons for both the decision need to be evaluated. The cost involved, the resources involved. Like Aishwarya said, I can develop a WordPress website myself, or I can develop an app in Android myself. But then that would limit her to Android customers, so she might be needing an iOS app as well. So she'll need someone either to develop it and she owns it. Then she'll require a service provider who develops it for Aishwarya, and then she'll need a server on which she can host the website. So she can buy that herself, that server space herself. So there are a lot of cloud servers that are available now, Aishwarya, and you can always buy space in that to host it. So you can do it yourself. Then you'll need to maintain that site because you'll need to always upgrade it. You'll need to always update, search those websites, find the new collections, find the inventory, and then put it on yours. So that updation is something that will be constantly maintenance and updation will be required. So you'll need either you'll do it yourself or you'll require someone to do it for you, right? So now that is another decision: outsourcing or having the technology in house. Do you want a service provider to do it to you and have a service agreement with them? Do you want to develop someone to develop it for you but have an in-house resource who will maintain it? Or do you want to hire a developer yourself in your company who will be developing as well as maintaining the website and the app, right? Each one has different costs involved, and each one has its own limitation and its own benefits and risks as well, because this business is entirely a technology interface for selling. So technology is a major component. Any technology failure means the business goes dysfunctional. So it's a chief component of this. As long as you do not have your own inventory, technology is a chief component on which you are depending. Risks involved in, can you think of risks involved in hiring an in-house developer and maintainer and outsourcing it to a company? Aishwarya, can you evaluate that?
Ma'am, if I hire someone, then I have to pay him a regular salary. And then the problem is there are many more IT sector over there. They are paying much larger than me, and he or she will always move out there.
Okay. One risk, cost plus risk is there, right?
Yes,
What
and
else?
the knowledge he or she has built doing my work, I mean, we lost, and I have to hire someone else, and then again he or she will take the extra time to get accustomed with the new system.
No, that is clear that it's the resource might get lost and there might be frequent changes which will disrupt the technology and the learning process involved, right? So one is attrition, manpower attrition that is there, and the cost, salary cost involved. What else? In-house and outsourcing both. What are the pros and cons?
Hmm.
One you have
And
said.
in-housing, of course, I need to provide the laptop and the workspace. Now the workspace is not there because in Corona situation, work from home is going on. Otherwise, I can find any other con. And for outsourced, then that will be one-time service, and I have to pay whenever I need to get the service, and then the person may or may not take my service.
Okay.
Then I have to switch the service provider, and the new service provider may not be accustomed with my system.
Okay. So, right. So, the whole thing here is management of the technology platform, because the business is dependent on that platform. Now, there are costs involved in having an in-house resource. There's a cost involved in taking a outsourced service provider, right? There are risks involved in both the cases. What is the cost involved? That one needs to evaluate and compare. And then whatever options you choose, see, there are always, whenever you have to take a decision, there will always be option 1, 2, 3. And each option, none of the option will have only pitfalls. Those options exist because they have their merits. That is why they are even an option, because they solve the problem that you have. They have some merits, but each of them has a cost, and each of them also has a risk, right? Nothing is foolproof. And therefore, based on your risk appetite, based on the amount of control you want on technology, you will have to make a choice. So when you have an in-house resource, you have more control over it. 24 hours, that person is dedicated and doing it, right? He's your employee. He'll have to obey your command. So there are benefits of it. You get a better control. You get a full-time dedicated resource. But he'll have his limitation of knowledge. One person will always have less knowledge than a whole organization which has multiple people with multiple skills. But then, if you as a startup will not be their primary customer, so they'll have other priority customers who have bigger pockets. So your work, they'll not give priority, might suffer, right? So there are other things. You will have less of control. You'll have less of control there when it is outsourced. So there are risks involved in each option that you choose. What is the risk that and cost that you can live with? Which is more expensive? Is having in-house more expensive, or having outsourced option more expensive? So that technical decision comes there, right? So in case of Pranita's idea, let's take another idea, Pranita's idea. The mushroom growing or mushroom cultivation idea, or mushroom selling idea, whatever it is. What are the technical inputs required in it? Pranita, can you think of it? What's the technical part required in your idea?
It's like a cottage industry. I just want to maybe some good fertilized soil.
Right. You need to know you need to have knowledge about the right composition of soil and manure.
Yeah.
Right. To grow mushroom. What else are the technical inputs required in that
For the
business?
storage purpose.
Yeah. How to store the product.
Yeah.
Yes. To increase its shelf life or whatever. What else are the technical things required there?
I don't have idea, man.
Okay. So now different businesses will have different technology required, right? It depends on whether you are manufacturing it. Trading might not be requiring too much of technology, except for inventory management and order management kind of a software, and probably the accounting software. There'll not be too much of technology requirement. But if you are manufacturing something, right, or you are running a technology based business, you will be having some kind of technology requirement there. Now, what is the technology that you will be using? What are the costs involved? Which is a better technology to use? So there are a lot of decisions that will have to be made based on the resources available and what's the most suitable thing for you. So in case of Pranita, the technology required would be all related to mushroom cultivation. What is the right kind of mix that is required for growth? What is the climate control that needs to be done? What is the technology used for packaging of it to increase its shelf life? How is the product to be stored and transported? So that is where the technical inputs are required, probably in mushroom cultivation, right? So what is the cost? Are there different options there? If you're growing it in a large scale, do you have to have something like a drip system of irrigation that you need to create for your entire whatever area you're using for cultivation? Or is it so small that you'll just hand water it? Or will you keep a manpower who will be doing it manually? What are the risks and the costs involved in having a manpower who will manually be doing the watering part? What is the costs and benefit involved in using a drip system or some other system of irrigation for your mushroom cultivation area, mushroom beds, right? So that can be one decision that you need to see and do the cost benefit analysis for both the options. So so feasibility there, when you talk about feasibility part, you also need to see what is the technology requirement, what is essential, and what is good to have, how much can you technology is required. And it can also be planned in stages, as in I will launch only, I can make Android app myself, so I'll launch the Android app now, and later once I have traction, I'll later develop the iOS version of it and launch it on iOS as well. You could also take a decision as in ki I'll do a free WordPress website and an Android app myself and start. And once the business, there's some business flowing in, I'll do the social media marketing. Once some business starts flowing in, I'll hire a person and I'll get the technology managed through him. And I'll buy packages for social media marketing, or I'll buy and hire an agency for doing the marketing for my thing. Because building the app is not enough. People have to know that this exists and people have to move on to it. So people have to be aware that something like this is there and what is the benefit of switching over to this. So one more point that is there for all the IT based ideas, very easy to make, low investment, lot of competition. So out of thousands of websites that are launched, only 5 or 10 of them has traction. Rest of them just exist and nobody goes there, or just 10 people go there, right? So how do you increase the visibility? How do you bring people to your website? How do people even know that a website like that exists? So, and the marketing costs are really high. So as a startup, when you have low budgets, how do you do the marketing for people to know about you have a product or a solution like that that you are offering to them? So that is where it is. Anyone who knows coding, anyone who knows the basics of website building will be able to build a WordPress website. Easiest thing to build, but how many of them have traffic depends on how many people are even aware of it and going to it. So it might take a lot of time and effort to actually drive people to it or know about its existence. So whatever has low entry barrier has a lot of people coming to it, right? And then you have to make a place for yourself there. And happens a lot with technology ideas, especially because everyone is into that online traffic and there's no distinguishable market. Unlike a lot of physical goods, where say Parinita's idea, she's growing mushrooms. There are a lot of mushrooms available in Bangalore, but if you say 100 kilometers out of Bangalore, there are not too many options available to them, right? And that is not also a place where Big Basket and Grofer serves. So probably she can there tie up with the local stores there and keep her mushrooms in those market. I'm just not even talking about processing here. I'm just talking about selling mushroom. So if her market is saturated and highly competitive, she has the option to geographically move to some tier 2 tier 3 cities around Bangalore, where she can which do not have online deliveries, and which do not have so much of ready availability of mushrooms on all the stores, unlike in Bangalore. So she has an option to shift to another market where there is a demand supply gap, right? So it also depends on what kind of business you are in. Now that will vary in each case. Coming to economical we'll leave because we'll do it later. Legal. Are there any legal issues involved, or are there any legalities which you need to fulfill before you launch your business? Anyone wants to share about the legal aspects of starting their business?
And first, I have to open a company,
Okay.
and so that I can raise funds for advertising, because the advertising matters the most.
Mhm.
Even I am thinking about selling products from other brands, because in Amazon and Flipkart and those kind of sites, even after buying branded product, people generally got skeptical that if
Mhm.
that is genuine or not.
Mhm.
And now the problem with branded websites are that they are not that much of user friendly, and from their website we can only buy products from just one brand, that is their brand.
Mhm.
But if from my website people are getting genuine products of different brands, which for payment they are driving them to the the genuine branded website, then they may visit my website, but they have to know about its existence,
Okay,
and
so
for
the
that advertising has to be there.
so for advertising, you don't need a company registration. So what are the different formats in which you think you can do your business? Are there any licenses required? Are there any other legalities required?
I'm not aware about that, ma'am.
Okay. So how do you find the legal things implications? Where do you think you can find what are the legal implications that are required for your business?
Ma'am, I think first we should register our company, na?
Okay, so there are different formats in which one can do the business. One can even do a proprietorship business
Yes.
where you don't need to register your company. You just need to have a brand, and you can just take a GST license and you can start selling, right? So Aishwarya, where company and the individual are not distinguishable. So Aishwarya starts a brand named, say, um, shapewear or shape up, right? So
Yes.
shape up is the brand name. It's not a company, it's just a brand name,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have just taken a license for shape up, a GST license for this business, and you start selling this, where Aishwarya and shape up are the same people. So and you have no company registration. So that is also a legal format of doing business. But once you will go to Flipkart, right?
Yes.
Or once you'll go to Amazon and Myntra, and you'll try to make a deal, they'll not be too keen to make a deal with an individual. They would like to enter into partnership with a company, because then a lot many times that happens. Or you are trying to raise fundings for your business, they'll say, how will you give me your equity? You are not even a company, you are an individual doing it. So you might need to register a company in that case. So what are the different formats in which you can do business in a country are proprietorship. Proprietorship is a format where I, as an individual, book my business profits on my PAN card. The company does not have a separate entity, is not a separate entity from me. I have just taken a GST registration for doing the business, and I can have any brand name under which I am doing it. But the company is actually me. My shop is me. I pay the taxes, I pay the income tax, I pay the GST, and any liability or any violation or any fraud, I am to be sued. Any liability, I'll be booked, right? So Ritu and the shop are not two different entities. Then there is another thing which is partnership. If there are more than one person doing the business, there's a partnership. Now partnership can be done through a partnership agreement. It can be and that partnership agreement can actually be registered. So if a partnership agreement is registered, then that partnership has a legal validity. One partner can sue the other partner, but again the partners and the entity are the same thing. They divide the profit depending on what the partnership is. Suppose I and Aishwarya are 50-50 partner in the business, so 50% of the profits come to me, 50% go to Aishwarya. Aishwarya pays the income in her income tax PAN card, and I pay for my income in my income tax PAN card. The company might have any name, but it's not a separate entity from Aishwarya and me. If something goes wrong, the police, there's a fraud that my company does, that my business does, or if I do not pay my loans or there is a case on me, the police comes and arrests me and Aishwarya for it, right? And if I try to cheat Aishwarya, Aishwarya can sue me based on that registered legal partnership agreement that my partner has cheated on me, right? So that is a partnership thing. This is again not a company. So what is a company? Company is when the business is a separate entity from Aishwarya. Business is a separate entity in itself. Aishwarya might be having it, or someone else might be having it. Aishwarya is running that business, but business has its own existence as a separate entity, and she has limited rights to that business and all the other partners. So what are the different formats in which a company can be registered with the registrar of companies? Generally, as a startup, you will register it as a limited liability partnership or a private limited company. So private limited company also, in the last amendment, I guess last 2 years, 3 years back, there's a private limited that can also be started by a single person, which is known as one person company. Earlier, private limited required at least 2 people to start that company. Limited liability partnership is again, so one person did not have an option to start the company, but now one person private limited company has also been permitted. Limited liability partnership is again a company which is registered with registrar of companies, and the liability of the partners is in proportion to their share in the business. And again, it has the same reports and returns which are filed as a private limited company, but it is less regulated than a private limited company because all the compliances of Company Act are not applicable to it. So that is another format in which you can register a company and make it a separate entity, legal entity. So limited liability partnership and private limited may one person ownership is there, and there can be multiple people ownership there. So now then there is private limited, which is Section 8 company. Section 8 company is when you are registering a not-for-profit entity. Earlier it was called Section 25 company, now it's called Section 8 company. This is when you're trying to create a cooperative type of thing. Say Pranita wants that all these small mushroom growers convert a lot of housewives into mushroom growers, right? And she registers a Section 8 company and creates a not-for-profit kind of a cooperative kind of a model where all the people who are growing this mushroom become part of that company and they share the profit of that company, and she wants to do it in a not-for-profit format. For women empowerment, let's get together and we'll do this. It's something of a legal format or a better format than a cooperative. Earlier, there's something called self-help group. There's something called a cooperative model of doing things. I gave one of those questions which said Lijjat Papad, for instance, was started in Maharashtra by some Gujarati women, all illiterate women, making papad at their home. 8 of them started it, and then everyone in the building also joined. Right? It was a cooperative model, which means ki the cooperative or the group collectively sells whatever they produce, and then the income is divided in proportion of what everyone has contributed. Or whatever, either equally or what everyone has contributed. There's different members in it. So there's a system where it is shared, but not one person takes away the profit, as in nobody's salaried there. They all share the profits. So that can be another model, which is cooperative model. Section 8 company is, you can have these women as employees, you can do a normal business, but the owner or the proprietor of the promoter of the company cannot withdraw the profits. It has to be replowed. He can take a salary, but cannot take away the profits from the company. It has to be again put back into the business for the growth of the business. So that is a Section 8 format or not-for-profit format of doing the business. So generally, these are social businesses or social impact kind of ideas which are done under this format. And it helps you raise those kind of grants or those kind of funds for your business. If you are not doing it in a for-profit manner, you are doing it in a not-for-profit manner, you can raise not-for-profit grants and funds for your business in that case, because it's generally a charitable cause. So that's another format of doing it. So that's the legal. But then let me tell you, this is not the only legality, right? You have tax registrations you'll need, company registration you will need for any business. So that is one one part of it, compliance, but which every business needs. But there are other compliances depending on the nature of business. For instance, coming to Pranita. Pranita wants to create a brand under which she wants to market package the mushrooms in, say, a vacuum packing, right? And create a brand, and that vacuum packing of mushrooms increases its shelf life by 20 days, or makes the shelf life 30 days. And she creates a brand under which she starts marketing it. Now, what else does Pranita requires besides a company registration, say in Section 8 or cooperative format or private limited or proprietorship, whatever the format she has chosen for company registration, or she doesn't register the company, she does it as a proprietor herself. What will she require? She'll require, because it's a food product, she'll require FSSAI certification to be able to sell that product. She'll need that FSSAI approval, and she'll have to put it on the packet before she can market it as a branded product of vacuum sealed mushrooms, right? So there's another license that might be applicable in her field. Aishwarya, suppose, wants to create a model in which she is doing, say, online business. Someone else was there who wanted to do, Apurva wanted to do an IT thing, and she wants to create a software which is into financial kind of transactions. She will need a license from RBI to be able to do that financial transaction, because not everyone is permitted to do financial transactions. Or she'll need a tie-up with a bank on whose behalf she'll be doing the financial transactions, because that is not legally permitted, that anyone can do financial transaction without requisite authority or certifications from Government of India, right? So there are legal formalities that are involved. Suppose you're making a setup, a factory setup that are required, that you have to create for doing something, and it employs more than 20 people. You might have to actually take a lot of licenses related to labor laws, environment clearances, about these land and building NOCs, all those lot of clearances that are required for setting up a physical infrastructure. If you are just setting up a office which has more than a call center which has more than 50 employees there in the call center, you'll need to follow the Shop and Establishment Act and get yourself registered under that. If you have 50 employees, you might also need to register under the PF and Gratuity Act of India. So there are other legal compliances that come into play. How will you now get to know what are the compliances that are applicable to your business? Where can you go for that information? Anyone? Now you
Ma'am,
want
to a chartered accountant's office.
Okay.
Yes.
You can go to a chartered accountant office. Okay. What else?
That's all I know.
Okay. Right. So, Aishwarya, there are generally three kind of entities who help you in statutory compliances. The chartered accountants is main because that is one thing that most businesses, it's best to find a right chartered accountant right in the beginning of the businesses, because chartered accountant would be required for your accounting compliances, for your income tax filings for the business. He'll be required for, he can help you in registration of business, though not necessarily he has to do it. But that's one good thing, to have a good chartered accountant once you establish a business and you want to go ahead with it, because he can help you in a lot of activities. There are also corporate law firms who can help you in all kind of registrations, even in your trademark and copyright registrations. Then there are company secretaries. Generally, they are also attached to some corporate law or a CA firm. You'll find company secretaries who will help you in filing your returns and compliances related to a company, because once you registered into a private limited or a limited liability partnership company at a ROC, there are other compliances that come into force, which are compliances under Company Act, where you'll have to do the filings of your board meetings and filings related to any major financial decision in the company. All those things, plus your annual financial returns, you will have to file to the ROC, that is Registrar of Companies. So since those compliances come into picture, and then there's a lot of compliance burden which enters, which creates a cost for you. More the compliances, more the cost of compliances, and more the procedures you need to follow in your company. So that is why it is said that you get into a company format only when your business is established enough to bear the cost of compliances. When you are still trying an idea, you don't need to register a company for trying an idea. You can always try an idea as an individual under a proprietorship kind of a arrangement, and once you start making profits and once you start having your revenues, then you can register the company. So all the formats of company are interchangeable, by the way. It's not that once you start with one format of the company, you can't convert it into another. You can always convert from one format into another format. So that flexibility is there. So it's not a permanent decision. It is where you start with and where you want to go later, and what is the right model to do your kind of business, right? So yes, you might have other compliances applicable to you. Operational, what are the things that you will be seeing for your business? Operationally, what are the things that you need to know about the operational feasibility of your business?
I have to know if people will use that website after advertising. After they come to know about it or not.
No, that's not operations. Operations is operations of your business.
And then people will able to buy from that website or not.
People will be able to buy, as in, I didn't get why people will not be able to buy it.
It may not be that user friendly.
Okay, so one is how well your technology platform or your technology interface works, right? Whether
Yes.
whether the platform or the product you have created is user friendly, are people able to use it conveniently or not, whether they are liking it or not. Okay, yes.
Yes.
What other things are involved in your operations? Just
Mm.
imagine how the whole operations will work. From you as a business point of view, market is separate from
Uh,
what all
for
things will
that,
you have
I
to
need
make.
to
Hmm.
uh,
Mhm.
hire some people to input data to the system by regular basis,
Right, good.
and then the software will be there. I have to maintain the software and all, and then
Right.
there should be enough profit to make me do these things and generate enough profit to grow the business.
Okay, what else will be involved in your operations? What else will you have to take care of if you do this business? One is
Mm.
constantly putting data in your website and updating it or your app. So you'll need manpower for that, who will be always working on this. Second, you said was what was the second thing you mentioned?
I have to that should generate enough profit.
No, so that is a different thing. That's economic feasibility. We are talking about operational part now. What all things your operations require?
I have to uh, buy the server space
Okay.
and keep buying cloud spaces as I mean
So
with the
that's just the
product
technology
releasing.
part of it. That's just the technology part of it. What else will your operation incorporate? Once you buy the service space and make a website and make a person sit and feed, uh, will that be enough? Will that the only thing that a person do? Will that the only thing that the business do? What else will the business do? What else operations will be involved? Others can also contribute. Others can also put their mind and contribute. It's an imaginary situation. It's not that Aishwarya is doing it. All of you can contribute to it.
Quality we checked at every point.
Sorry.
Quality.
Right, quality check of the material, right. So there's some quality that you need to assure for the products you are supplying, and what are the checks and balances you are going to keep to make sure that the quality thing reaches there. Good. Any other thing that the
Uh,
operations might involve?
Ma'am, and I have to train the people who are inputting data because they should be aware about body shapes and what data to put in what section. I have to
So
train them.
So that okay, manpower you require and manpower training you will require, but you have not covered all areas of operations. One is like Pranita said, you will have to see the quality of the material being supplied to the people.
Yes, ma'am.
So because people are buying from you might be redirecting to someone else, but
Hmm.
people are coming to your website. They are buying through your app or website. They'll come to you with complaints
Yes, ma'am.
because they have bought through your portal. So you are responsible and answerable to them, to
Yes,
wherever you
ma'am.
are sending them. So one is how will you do the quality control? That is one part of operations. What other operations?
Like how I mean, if some product got mismatched or some misplaced or something happened to the product, then I will be change. I mean, how I will change that?
Okay, so
That
how will
should be
you resolve
there.
customer complaints, right? So customer
Yes, yes,
satisfaction or customer complaint would be another aspect that will be a part of your operations. Quality control, customer complaints, handling customer complaints and giving them a resolution. Now, that is another part. One part you have already mentioned, doing tie-ups with different online portals. Um, to get access to their do that that's a back
brand
end thing
website.
that you to get access to their products and to their website and make that deal of profit sharing with them. So that's another thing that is involved in the operations of your business. What other things can you think of?
So when the product is written, you want to be careful. because this is a cloth. Maybe they use and they can send.
Right. So you'll have to design system and processes to make sure that the complaints are real and genuine, and people are not misusing it. Ki they're wearing the clothes and then returning it, right? Just trying it and returning it. There could be also okay. So one another thing that you said was your operations will involve a lot of marketing to reach out to your customers.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
one is that aspect, whether you'll do it in house or outsourced. Then in operations also to do the quality check, whether the material from website will come to you and you will mail it to the customer under your packing and your branding, or whether the company will directly send it to the customer, right? Then if company is directly sending to the customer, how are you doing the quality check? If it's coming to you, you are ensuring the quality and then packing and sending under your brand, then how do you do that? So that operational flow, what is the flow of product? So that also you need to understand what will be the operational flow, how the customer comes. So you said your interface has to be good, so that customer can use it. So one is that customer complaints, how do you solve? So that is customer side, what all operations are required on the customer side. Then back end side, there are operations that are required related to who are the people, who are the brands, or the online portals you would like to link to your particular website. So doing those tie-ups with different companies, that's a back-end operation. You'll have to attach more and more brands to your platform. So that becomes one operation. Second is about quality control. How do you do it? Will you and what is the process you set for it? How do you maintain those checks and balances there? So that becomes another part of your operations. Then manpower hiring and manpower training, what are the kind of manpower required for marketing, for managing your technology platform, that is training them for how to know what to put under what section. So manpower training, manpower hiring, that becomes another part of your operations. So all these activities are part of the operations involved. Now what can you manage, what do you need, can you keep in house, what you need to outsource, what are the cost benefit analysis for each option that you want to keep in house or want to outsource. What can you manage, what can you not manage, that needs to be clear. So that will become part of your operational feasibility, whether this can be done or not done. Then comes the scheduling feasibility. What is scheduling feasibility?
Can I add one more thing? The
Yes,
natural calamities. Natural calamities. Maybe
okay,
this.
contingency planning, very interesting. So Pranita has brought up a very interesting point, is about say contingency planning in a scenario like this. We had this COVID thing where everything was shut down. So online portals also got affected because they could not deliver. There was no courier service. So they couldn't deliver. So everything got shut. So there will be areas which are where courier services are not good. How are you going to manage that? Right? Which are not covered by certain portals. Areas which are too remote and where the delivery service is not available. For instance, I'll give you an example. In UP, mobile or and electronic devices are not delivered by Flipkart. So, product beyond a certain value. So, I do not have an option to order it online. Now, similarly, what will your ways be for contingency planning for such challenges? What are okay? So that's also brings us to a very important point: is what are the challenges and the risks you will face in the business in running the operations, and how do you plan to overcome them? And what is your strategy for that? So that also needs to be planned actually in feasibility, especially when you are checking the feasibility, you need to plan those aspects, and you have to have plan B as to if this one doesn't work, then this is how I'll be going and doing it. So you have already calculated the risks and you have already done your contingency planning. Okay, anything else? Coming to the scheduling feasibility. What is the scheduling feasibility that we had talked about earlier? Anyone would like to explain what is scheduling feasibility? So it's about time schedule of the business. What is a time schedule? What is a timeline? Anyone has done IT project? You make those Gantt charts and all? What is it about? It's part of project management.
Ma'am, it's like when when I will my profit will quench the investment.
Okay, so when your profit will increase, will cross the investment, that's break-even analysis actually. Scheduling is scheduling of the entire activities of execution of that project. So suppose you conceive the project today, right? How much time will it take to do the market analysis? Say I'll take a month in order to prepare my business plan and do the market analysis. And accordingly, I'll design my interface. So interface designing and creation, product development is going to take another 3 months before we launch the beta version of the product of my platform. So first we'll be launching it only on WordPress and Android Play Store. Right, so after 3 months that will be launched, and then we'll do the testing, and then based on the feedback we are going to improvise, and we are going to launch it on other platforms as well. So we'll be having an iOS version and whatever softwares others you can think of, I don't know, and you'll upgrade your website to something else. So you plan those things. What are the costs involved till then? So suppose you're saying after 6 months I will start having getting returns on my business. I'll start the marketing campaigns. I'll first do the internal testing, and then I'll do the final version, and then I'll put out all other formats of it. Then I'll start the marketing campaigns for it. Then I'll start having returns. So first 100 customers by say 9th month from now. And that's a best case scenario that you're planning. There will be a lot of contingencies, and like in IT project also, you put the best case and the worst case scenario there. You put the best case and worst case scenario here, because Aishwarya, your product is totally not involved in manufacturing. It does not have to establish a supply chain, and it's just building a technology platform. It will still take 6 months or something to launch, right? Because you need to also have that back-end agreements in place. You don't know how much time that will take to come, because you'll go and demonstrate your platform. You'll show what you have made and how it will work and how it will benefit them. You'll show the result of your market survey and everything, and you'll convince those people to get into. So once you get into tie-ups with business platforms, it takes the agreements take time to materialize, because they work almost like government departments, big corporations. So big corporates work like that. So say you still start having business only say in 8 months or something. Once you have everything ready, tried, tested, demonstrated, and you have your first set of designs or products put on it, after having collaboration with some of the companies, with 1 or 2 companies who have allowed you to put the product and share their profits with you, give you a commission on sales. So then you start having doing the marketing and getting your customers on the platform. So this whole process is going to take you anything up to a year to start getting returns on your business and your investment. So that's a very short time for a business to start, because there's nothing to build physically. In case of Pranita's case, say mushroom farming, right? It might take a smaller time for her to learn and do marketing for herself. But if she wants to actually do market and make a lot of women as a women empowerment idea, she wants to implement it for a lot of women doing it in their house, and she sets up a market for them and package it and market it. It's again something that's not going to take less than 6 months for her to start. But if you're building something that requires arranging finances, constructing outlet for it, involves some construction, buying of plant machinery, training the manpower first to operate the plant machinery and do something like a manufacturing setup, it might take a longer time. So different projects take different time to implement, and till the time you start having returns, you are investing from your pocket. So do you have the bandwidth to do that? Do you have the resources, or do you need to generate the resources? That is required to know for you to do the scheduling. That scheduling is required for you to know whether it is feasible for you to invest for an year on this much of manpower, on this much on technology, this much on this, and till you start having returns. And that too, enough returns to cover your cost will come only after 2 years or 3 years. So are you invested? Are you ready to be invested for that much time? Do you have resources to do that? If not, how are you going to build, or how are you going to start light and bring down the costs? So that is the importance of scheduling, because you need to learn how to arrange for finances till that time. Okay.
Ma'am, after listening from Pranita, I am thinking about that there are many sites, brand websites, they do not deliver their things outside of any city. So
Right.
there, I will do that. If they delivered it, if the customer is from a place where the brand will deliver that product to them, then I will let them go to the brand website and order it, so that from that brand will deliver the product to them. But if they are from village side, then I will collect the product from that brand, and then I will send it by DC or something, and I will tie up with a courier service, and I will take the charge.
But Aishwarya, you need to also understand, if the brand is already couriering to certain places, why is it not sending to certain places? There must be a reason. If somebody is not doing it, and it's very easy option for them to do it, to make just tie up with a courier company and deliver there, then you have to first also understand, if somebody is not trying an idea which is very obvious and simple to implement, why are they not doing it? Does it not make a business sense to them, or is it operationally loss making thing? Is it because there are certain other challenges in that geography? Do people there are not enough people who order online? What is the reason? You also need to investigate that first.
Ma'am, I guess the main reason is the order generated from the village side is very less. That may be the reason.
Okay. So that you need to find out, and a company would definitely be interested in a proposition like that, but you need to actually find out why it's not happening. Does it not make economic sense? Probably it's not making economic sense for the company to do it. So how will you make benefit out of it? How will you make profits out of it? You have to be able to go and study the market again and see what are the costs involved, what are the margins involved, and is it making a profitability thing or a business sense in getting into that, because any company would like to expand its market, and then you can go with that proposition to the company.
Now, ma'am, I have a question that to get the funds, I have to make a pilot project first. For this project, I have to go what extent to make a good pilot project?
See, pilot project is actually a demonstration of the real business that you will be doing on a very small scale. say Pranita wants to raise fund for mushroom farming. She has to run that mushroom farming business from her home at a very low cost for 3 months, show the profitability, and then go and take money and show that you are already doing it successfully, and you need these funds to actually scale up the business to a higher level. And there's so much of, you have to even show the projections. Ki once they give you money, okay, so everywhere you take money, you have to show the return on investment there. So once they give you 5 lakhs, how are you going to invest that money? How will it translate into your increased revenues? Whether the increase is enough for you to make profit as well as pay back to the investor, so that both investor can make profit and you can also make profit. Kya itna profit increase ho raha hai by putting in that amount? Generally, money is only given for growing the business. It will not be as in ki it's a dead money, like I'll hire and pay salaries. That's not what most people will give money for. So you have to show how it will increase your sales, right? How it will bring more revenues to you. Today you are making a profit of say 5,000 per month, right? Or 10,000 per month. You have to demonstrate how much you have invested, what rate are you selling, what are the margins involved, and with this much of capital you could create profits of, not sales, profits of 5,000 per month. If I invest in the same proportion with 1 lakh of investment, I am making 5,000 profit per month, which means 60,000 in a year. If I make the investment 5 lakh, my profit grows 5 times. That is, from 60,000, it will grow to 1 lakh 80. No, sorry. It will grow to 3 lakhs, right? So you need to be able to show that calculation. Then how will it grow? So you'll have to show that currently with 1 lakh, I am spending so much on manpower, so much on this. With 5 lakh, I don't need to spend so much on manpower. I'll spend more on having more beds, mushroom beds to grow on these seeds. I'll be using better technology. I can invest in using a drip irrigation technology. So instead of one man on for per kg say for 100 kg of harvest or 10 kg of harvest, I can do with 2 people for 500 kg of harvest. I don't need to grow manpower in that proportion, and therefore my margins will increase. So I'll be selling not only will my sales increase, production increase 5 times, my sales will increase 5 times, but my profits are going to increase 10 times, because now I am getting benefit of scale, and therefore my profits. So all those projections will have to show, this is where I'm going to put your money. Currently, this is the cost. Now, once you give me the money, this is where I'm going to invest it. This is how my sales will grow. This is how my costs will grow. And now I'll have this much of 10x of profitability. So I'll be able to serve your loan and give you returns on your investment, as well as make higher profits myself. Only then it makes business sense to raise money, right? Then there is, okay, now this is also a little confusing, because there are 2 streams in this funding. One is the equity stream and other is the loan stream, right? So loan is given to a business which already exists generally, and you will have to show the potential, and it's not and a startup. There's another category which is called a startup business, which is like you're bringing in a totally new thing in the market, which has a market, unexplored market, and there are high risks and high return. It should have a very high scalability potential. So those kind of businesses which have innovation and high scalability potential attract equity money as well. Equity money again comes after the pilot, right? You do not need to have existing business. It can come at MVP level, and it can MVP is minimum viable product, the product that is ready to be sold in the market, or once you have your first few customers. So at that level, you can actually raise equity funding as well for a startup business, but it doesn't generally come for SME business. SME business has a different set of people investing, and equity is a different set of people investing. The nature of businesses are different, and the people investing into that model are different, right? So there are profitable business and there are high scale potential businesses. So businesses which have innovation and high scalability are invested by equity funders as well. So this funding itself can be a very long session, because then what are the criterias on which it is decided, and not everyone gets it, by the way. So a business has to be, that is why a business has to be sustainable in itself. Once you have done the initial investment to start up, put the startup capital from your pocket. Your pocket means what we say 3Fs: friends, family, and your own savings. The third one is fools, people who trust in you, right? Even without you having proven anything. So those kind of people, once they've given you the money, you yourself have your savings, you start a project on a very small scale, test it, start showing promise, then you start getting more money for it and grow it. And organically, there's something called organic growth. Organic growth is when the profits of a business are replowed into the business, again invested into the business, and therefore a whole cycle. You don't withdraw the profit initially, you reinvest the profits of a business back into the business, and you make the business grow gradually from its own income. That is called organic growth. That's the natural growth of a business. Then there is something called inorganic growth. Inorganic growth is achieved through external funding, right? So even if you don't get the funding, a business should have enough strength to bootstrap itself and grow itself organically. That's the best thing for everyone to start with. And then once you get an external funding, once you have been into business for some time there and you are making profits and your business is making sense, there will be people who will be willing to invest, and then you can grow your business inorganically through external funding. External funding can come in form of debt, or it can come in form of equity. Debt can be institutional debt can also be personal debt. Equity can come from individual angels, equity can come from institutions. So that's a different ball game, but that's not something that you start with. When you are going to make the pilot and when you're planning a business and planning to start it, you as an individual, if you do not have capital and backing, or you are not from a business family, you start it from the resources available to you. Startup philosophy says that you start a business very light. So if Aishwarya can only make WordPress and Android app herself, there should be some skill of yours also. So if she can make that herself and start with just that, make the thing, launch it, test it on her own, then go and do the tie-up and start selling on her own, and then as the money starts flowing in, you start engaging or employing other people and investing more in the business. So that is the startup way of doing business, where you invest minimum amount in the beginning when your business is in the trial phase, and gradually as the business shows promise and starts giving returns, that is when you start investing more of your even your own money in the business, right? Even your own money you don't burn because it is there available in your bank account, then also you're not supposed to burn it. That is because if you want to tomorrow change the idea or modify the idea, you should be having enough money to be able to pivot on your idea. So that is how you say you start. So the final product that you might have planned would be grand. The way you want to operate your company 2 years down the line might be the ideal way of doing it. But right now, because you have limited resources, because of your limitations as an individual, in terms of resources, in terms of your skill, in terms of what is available to you, you plan a business in a way in which you can start small and gradually grow it. Business is a commitment that is, you, even the trial period of it is not less than 2 years. You have to give at least 2 years of your life. You have to take risk. Business is equal to risk. You must have read somewhere risk is equal to return. So when the risk is high, the return is high. But then you have to be willing to take that risk, invest for that period. No business that is started actually starts paying back before 2 years of your investment, of your life, energy, resources. That is when it starts growing. And if you do not find the potential in that period, it is best to change your business model or change your business idea. You have to be constantly learning. You have to be a constant learner. You have to observe how it's working, what is not working, and you have to constantly learn and modify things accordingly. That is what is required when you are an entrepreneur trying to start a new business, right? So coming to economical feasibility, what are the things that you will be requiring? Okay, profitability we have already talked about. Then there was something called break even. Probably that would be there as part of one of your financial sessions, I'm sure, if there is a financial planning session. So break even is when you actually start getting returns even on your initial investment. You have been able to cover your initial investment through your profits. Then whatever comes back to you is pure profit, because your initial investment has already been recovered. So that is the break even point. So suppose let's take a hypothetical case. I started a business by investing 50,000 from my pocket, from my saving, or borrowing it from my parents and starting with 50,000. So each unit that I sell, right, is whatever product I'm selling, X product, and each unit I sell is of 1,000 rupees, right? And the margin, profit margin involved in every unit is 100 rupees. 900 goes in the costs, different costs. 100 rupees is my profit margin. So what is happening is the 900 rupees is my operational cost cover, is being covered. That 100 rupees my profit that is coming is operational profit. It's not break even, it's operational profit that is coming now. My operational costs get covered only when I have profit up to say at least I should be having profit up to 5,000 to be able to cover my operational costs for a month of running that business, which means how many units should I be selling? So I have 100 rupees profit on each unit and I need profit of 5,000, right? So I should be selling 50 units at least every month. So the day I start selling 50 units per month, I have been able to break even with my operational cost that I incur every month to produce those units. So that is my break even on operational cost for a month when I sell 50 units. Whatever I sell beyond 50 units, say I start selling 100 units per month, gradually my sale picks up. Other people get to know about it. After 5 months, I have started selling not just 50 units. Gradually, my sales has gone from 50 to 60 to 75 to 80 and then to 100 units. Now, 5,000 is my operational cost. 5,000, whatever is coming, is additional profit, right? So that is after covering my costs. Now that 5,000 that I'm getting extra goes towards, I'll minus it from the 50,000 that I had initially invested there, right? Which was my fixed cost, not the operational cost that is involved in running the show. That is working capital. That is working capital, what rotates in production of units and is recovered from the unit. That is my working capital. Now that 50,000, if I keep subtracting that from 50, that 5,000 from the 50,000 that I'm earning, now I've started getting that 100 units per month. Then that 5,000, if I keep adding, in 10 months, I would have recovered my initial investment of 50,000 also. So whatever I had invested that time is also now I have recovered from my business. That is the return. I have balanced the investment and the returns from the business. And thereafter, whatever I get is now pure profit. My investment is recovered. My operational costs are already being recovered. Now whatever is coming is pure profit. So do you have patience to wait for that time till the time you do that? Operational break even is what you should target to achieve at the earliest, so that working capital keeps rotating, that you don't have to put from my pocket. Because say till the time I have not started selling 50 units, but my cost per month is 5,000 and I'm not making 5,000 from profits, what is happening is I'm putting money from my pocket. Say I'm selling only, I'm making profit of only 1,000, then 4,000 I'm putting from my pocket that month. If I'm making a operational profit of 2,000, then remaining 3,000 I'm putting from my pocket. So you have to keep investing till the time you achieve operational break even. So what you should target in your business, if you're starting a small business, how to achieve operational profit at the earliest. So at least the cost of running the business pays for itself, right? And then once you have achieved the operational profit is when you can target for recovery of your investment, returns on your investment, initial investment that you made. So that is how you see the profitability. It makes sense to do for people like us who do not have a lot of capital to invest. One is try and do business in the capital that you can manage from your internal resources and circle. Try to take a partner who is willing to invest something. So there can be some of your friends working in corporate looking at where to invest their money, and you can make them a partner in your business where they can keep funding your business and you can keep doing the operations and you can split the profit. That is also one way in which lot many people from middle class who do not have investment do it. They find a person who is retired, who has done money, and he is looking for returns on his money, and he is willing to give you money to put it into a profitable business, and you keep giving him some returns every month on his investment. So there are people like that who fund individually also. Don't just look for banks, don't just look for institutional investments, don't just look for equity funding. Be innovative about where you can get your funds from. And the first funders are generally your friends and family, right? If you're not bootstrapping yourself, try and achieve operational profit so that you get the capital and your business becomes sustainable in itself. The benefit of this is you don't need to keep plowing in money once you have achieved operational profitability. At least your monthly expenses are being met by monthly income. So you are not putting in more money from your pocket. So that is, and then make it operationally profitable. So you start getting some profits every month. That is also your motivation to keep plowing. That is called organic growth. Once you, and don't think of making a lot of, you will start making a lot of money from the business initially. You will not. Initially, you only keep putting into a business. It's almost like raising a child. So for first 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you have to ensure growth. Then if the child is healthy and everything, then he'll start walking, he'll start running, he'll start going to school. That is how the progress happens. So it's a long-term investment, right? Not just a short-term, or there can be a short-term income opportunity which is not counted as entrepreneurship. Okay, so any questions on this? Anyone who wants to discuss anything about their business feasibility? Waiting for the questions.
Participant, please put your questions if you have. Um, I think it's a quiz time also. So I
Okay.
have given you a quiz in the chat box. So please do this, and on the same time you can put the question also.
Please make a list of questions for tomorrow's session also, because I only have interactive sessions with you. I don't have theory sessions tomorrow too.
Tomorrow we have also Ritu ma'am. So please put your questions in front of ma'am if you have any doubt related with today's program, today's session, and obviously she will discuss tomorrow session. So please put the questions and just make the list of questions.
And if Apurva is there tomorrow, then we can discuss her topic on opportunities in IT segment.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a request to the admin.
Mhm.
Ma'am, can you make a group of us participants?
Yeah. There is a group, Women in Entrepreneurship, there, where I'm pasting the link. Na, this is the group of your participants.
But there we participants cannot interact. If some of us will gonna be a future entrepreneurs, then
Yes.
we should be in touch, right? That
Yes, of
will be
course. Yeah,
helpful.
that's why we are making this group. Na? You will be in touch whenever you face the problem or any kind of queries, they will solve it. So there are the numbers are there, and they will interact if you will personally, because everybody is busy in our personal engagements, and mostly of the group member is the students, so their exams is going on. So these are the major factors for the not interaction, but they will interact obviously when you will call, or when you will directly will you when you will message her, then they will be give the response.
No,
Okay,
ma'am, I
ma'am.
think what she's saying is that only admins are allowed to post in it. The participants can't interact among
Okay,
themselves.
okay.
That
So,
is what
and
she
we
wants.
will allow for the participant also after that. Okay, Ashwarya?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. So, it was really very wonderful session, Ritu ma'am. It was very tiring for you also. For after 3 hours continuously, you just clear the doubt of the participants and teaches a very wonderful manner. Thank you, ma'am, so much. Is
Thanks a
there any?
lot. And I'll love if you people come with a list of questions, because it's always lecturing is have will always happen. We already have lecture sessions. Uh, since this is a opportunity for interaction, please bring in as many questions as possible. We can discuss this among ourselves. I might not know all the answers, but we can always discuss among ourselves and come up with solutions. There can be a lot of peer review of your ideas as well. And regarding opportunities in IT, also how to start and all those things, any question related to entrepreneurship you can ask, right? And Apurva is not there. Otherwise, I would have discussed that. We'll do it tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow I will inform her, ma'am, and she will definitely put up the question to clear her doubt. I think that today she is not there. Yes.
Okay, then bye
Okay.
everyone. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you
Okay,
for
bye,
this
ma'am.
informative session, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye bye, ma'am. Those who have submitted their quiz can leave. So thank you, participants. Pranitha, Ashwarya, you have done your session quiz. Nazma, Priyanka, Khyati, I have already pasted all 4 link of today's, so please do it. Please submit it
Still,
all.
ma'am, still doing it.
Okay, okay. No issue. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all of you. Bye bye.